Good afternoon. I'm really very happy to moderate this session, which is on a very, very interesting topic. Topic is incorporating emerging technologies in the organizational DNA. And fortunately for us today, we have got panelists who come with a very, very divergent backgrounds. I think they'll be able to give us very good perspective as far as this discussion topic is concerned. To just give you just few starting lines, like when we say emerging technology, what we really mean by emerging technology. So emerging technologies are the technologies which are not necessarily new technology, but the technologies which are actually has not been fully adopted, which are like having good potential for efficiency and good growth, but are still being adopted in few companies, but I think it has not been adopted en masse. So all these technologies like 5G, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AR, VR, drones, cloud computing, quantum computing, blockchain. These are like few of the emerging technologies which we are hearing. But over and above also, there are technologies like even basic SMS has got a lot of potential which has not been fully exploited. Like there are virtualized, there are personalized video messages and those kind of services, and there are hundreds of companies I know who are all the time developing technologies so that these can be used for better efficiency and better use. So it's an interesting topic. So before I take up the topic, I'll introduce panelists. I'll request each one of them to give their brief introduction and also maybe a few lines on their perspective as far as this topic is concerned. So maybe we can start with Mr. Dua.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You always get caught napping when you're the opening batsman. So I thought I'll be the last one to do it, but Arvind has taken the chance. Anyway, I think it's a very, very interesting subject that we have taken up. What are the emerging trends in the organization? But let me just give you a little background of where we come from. See, Digital Infrastructure Provider Association is an association of infra providers like Indus Towers, American Towers, Suyok Towers, and Summit Digital Infrastructure, then Tower Vision, and also the SN Tower. These are the members that we have today. And we have almost close to 750,000 towers. The way it is that if we look back in 2015 to now, when we had just 4 lakh towers, and today we have almost 7.5 lakhs. In terms of the radio system that we install is around 2.5 million towers. This is how it is. I think this is the brief introduction that you wanted us to give.
Thank you. And I'll request Annie, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Arvind. Good morning, everyone. I will try to speak loudly so that I'm audible above the noise outside. Can you hear me? Yeah, great. So I'm Annie Mathew. I look after IT in Mother Dairy. I have been with Mother Dairy for almost 18 years now, and it's been a very interesting journey so far. I inherited a lot of technology when I joined Mother Dairy without realizing it. When I joined, in fact, I always keep saying this, that when I was joining Mother Dairy, people used to ask me that why do you need technology for selling milk and fruits and vegetables, right? It was only when I joined the organization that I realized how tech dependent it was. Each and every activity was system driven. That was the extent. So, but it was, the only thing was, it was in multiple systems. My major contribution was to bring in one monolithic system which bridged across processes and gave us one central ability to have a central financial reporting engine. So putting all systems under one umbrella was the major contribution, apart from ensuring that the whole technology enablement mindset of the organization did not get derailed, and we continued on the path. Emerging technologies, I think we'll come to that eventually. But yeah, there's a vast topic to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Thanks a lot. Now I'll request Mr. Veer Sagar, who is from Electronics, and I had some interaction with him. He'll give very good perspective in today's discussion. So, Mr. Veer Sagar, please introduce yourself.
Hello. Good morning. I will introduce myself. I've been around IT for over 60 years now. You won't believe it, but I started IT in 1964 when we had the second generation of IBM computers. And I have been in IT in different forms, shapes during this last 60 years. Yet, in the sense that I've been a user of IT, I have run IT departments, I have run IT computers, I have run companies which have designed IT, then I ran companies which do back office using IT. So I've been there, but I have some very different views of IT. I think IT is required, but it's only meant for as long as it's simplified, it's used by the end user and the customer. IT for IT's sake is very dangerous. And adopting an IT which is not proven is very, very dangerous, because as a user, and I have faced this, that I answer something, I press something and nothing happens. And I worried maybe I have made a mistake. So I press again, still nothing happens, and I press 3 or 4 times and it's chaos. Now the problem was not me, the problem was the system was not properly functioning. So a lot of times we do get these half-baked problems because people are so desperate to adopt technology. So I have a view on technology which I will take up when my turn to speak comes. But I just want to know that I have a view on technology, even though I have been with technology from day one for over 60 years now.
Thank you, Veer. Thanks a lot. Now I'll request Mr. Neeraj Chauhan, who is a very young CIO among us. So, Neeraj, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Arvind. Hi, this is Neeraj Chauhan. I represent the company PayU. With PayU, I work on the role of CIO. I'm a part of PayU and BCS team for over 6 years now, and we comes from fintech domain, so tech comes very inbuilt with us. And I am apart from PayU, I'm a big cloud evangelist, and I work with many players in terms of cloud security and compliance and regulation. So we try to incorporate as much as technologies to make everybody's life simple, risk-free, secure in a responsible manner. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thanks a lot. And we also have among ourselves Mr. Sandhu, who has come from USA for this panel. Sandhu, thank you very much. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. So I work for a company called Micron Technology, which is one of the 3 companies in the world makes memory chips, which is NAND and DRAM memory chips, which power all your smartphones, all your computers. The company is about 50,000 people worldwide, $30 to $40 billion of revenue, which is shared, which is 1/3 of the market. So there's a pretty good chance that your device in your pocket has one of our chips inside of it. And my comment on technology and innovations, I'll elaborate later, but we create hardware. We use innovation to create hardware, which then enables innovation in the workplace. 15 years ago, this phone did not exist. Everybody in the world uses it. So innovation is inevitable. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. It's up to us to use it in the right way to benefit and do good, rather than do things which are not beneficial or efficient for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sandhu. Today's session is really very useful, even personally for me and also some of my team members who are here. We at Telecom Sector Skill Council, we are working on scaling youth on various courses, and emerging technology is one area where we are working, and we normally try to find out, what are the use cases coming and how we should devise cases around that. So my first question is to Mr. Dua, who is like our industry veteran, and Mr. Dua has done a lot of work in telecom last 30 years. Mr. Dua, you think that like we are hearing so much of use of drones now, so you are heading DIPA. So is drones are being utilized or can be utilized for, say, tower technician's job? Towers, like normally people have to climb 30 meters, which is risky, which is time consuming and very costly. So you think that drones can be used or should be used or are being used for this purpose?
Thank you, Arvind. I'll divide this discussion in maybe 2 to 3 parts. One, the evolution of the infrastructure provider, how did it come? Way back, if you looked up early 2000 when this was there, this infrastructure was totally owned by the telecom service provider. When it was found by them, because it's not their core competency, it was hived out to another called the infrastructure provider. That is how the infrastructure provider evolved into this. And with that, what happened is now the complete infrastructure is only in the laps and the baby of the infrastructure provider, which I said that we have number of infrastructure providers like ATC, Indus, Summit, Ascent, Tower Vision, Yog, many of them are member. Now, if you look at the basically traditionally the tower, telecom tower are maintained and inspected by today the human beings, and we call them as the riggers. Riggers do that. Now, there are 2 types of infrastructure. What you can do, one is the passive infrastructure, and one is the active infrastructure. In the case of the passive infrastructure, we classify them into like tower, fiber, diesel generator set, the air conditioning. In the case of the active infrastructure, that also is the box that we have, that the radio system or the lighted fiber which is done in Sandhu. That is an active here. Now, earlier and even now, I think your question is very valid that on the drones. So far, drones are very rarely being used for this purpose of maintenance. But there are many pilots which have been done in this regard to do that. And the drones have definitely found actually a great utility from the safety point of view. So actually, if you give them the correct name, is the unmanned aerial vehicle. And there are drones have a number of potential commercial application. As on date, it's very limited. See, today, as a DG or as a CEO of an infrastructure provider, what I need to monitor is 2 things. One, the availability of the power supply, availability of the alternate power supply. Then the fiber cut is available, and if the fiber has been cut or not. Again, any other pilferage which is happening is do that. This has been and it continues to be managed totally through cameras and totally through the human. But some of the experiments which have been taken up by a few of our members is through the drones, which have a very high resolution cameras installed into this, which monitor on 24/7 the health of the complete infrastructure in terms of the diesel availability, in terms of the electricity availability, in case of the fiber connectivity, and in case of today you have the huge number of the fiber cut together, which again disturb the total network on this. So that is where it is monitored today. Not only that, it is also used now. Earlier, see, how do we install the towers? We do the sort of an RF mapping on this. RF mapping used to be done earlier also, and even now also is being through manual resources by making use of the various spectrum analyzers to do that. But today, with the help of the drones, we are also mapping the availability of the site availability, and also whether the coverage part of it, how it will cover it. And where then we find out the black holes there, whether there is a black hole there or there is a need for installation of the infrastructure there. So therefore, It has a great utility. It also provides the security to this one. It also, from the safety point of this, but this is a challenging for the time being because the drone, although even today's paper was saying the government has identified to provide PLI to the drones also. But ultimately, I think drone is going to be the technology which will be used for faster development of faster installation and implementation of the tower. This is also equally applicable when you want to take the NOCs for this. Again, when you operate the network operating center also, it is also done through this. Thank you so much. We talk more about when.
थैंक यू दुआ साहब आपके सारे जो इनपुट्स हैं हमारे लिए बहुत वैल्यूएबल रहते हैं। टेलीकॉम सेक्टर स्केल काउंसिल में हम अपने जो QPs वगैरह सब जो डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर साइड में बनाते हैं, आपके इनपुट्स लेते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर डैट। Now moving to any you are working with a 50-year-old brand. I think we all have grown up drinking mother dairy milk and dairy products, and from your organization point of view, which is very traditional, conventional business, well-established brand, long-term brand, you have been doing business 50 years back when some of these technologies were not even talked about, and you grown that time. So now because the topic is like how will you adopt to the organizational DNA. That means bringing change in the organization is the most challenging task. So from your point of view, these emerging technologies, how it can be utilized for say your logistics, for your Salesforce management, or even management of quality and other areas, how you can use emerging technologies, how you're going to do that.
Thank you for that question, Arvind. I think to some extent we were lucky because our legacy is that of innovation, right? Even when you look at our history, when it comes to the business models, whether it is token milk, whether it is retailing of fruits and vegetables, whether it is making oil available, Dhara oil available in Tetra packs, etc., we have been ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation in business models. So to that extent, we were lucky that technology did not need to be forced into the organization. However, my learning is that any technology to get adoption, you need a very good vision and the ability to communicate that vision. If people, your employees, your stakeholders are not part of that vision, if they don't buy in into the strategy, it makes life very difficult. Second part would be whether you are able to have the right talents in place, right? To that also I got the opportunity to create the IT team from scratch. We had few members who were older in the system, plus brought in a lot of new talent to ensure that we had the right skill sets. Without the right skill sets, you just can't bridge and that's where I believe your role becomes very important, from ensuring that the right skill sets are available across. I think also another approach is to do a lot of POCs. For instance, if you talk of cloud, we really did not need to move to a cloud because we had enough capacity deployed with us in our on-prem system. But I said, no, if we keep waiting for the opportunity before we try out cloud, my team is going to be dinosaurs very quickly, and that's something which scares me a lot. You don't want to end up with talent which is so outdated that you keep wondering how are you going to survive. Hence, it makes sense that you give them enough opportunities and keep upskilling them. So we went into the cloud and tried out few and deployed few systems on the cloud just to ensure that the team learned what it is to manage a cloud environment. And we kept on doing that. So cloud became our buffer. Wherever we needed agility of deployment, we moved to the cloud and then eventually moved back to on-prem as and when we felt that the costs were becoming too challenging or something. So the DNA, it doesn't automatically get into the DNA. It has to be carved into the DNA through continuous experimentation and a complete desire to be better at it than anyone else.
Thank you, Annie. I think very good point that there is not a shortcut. Any way you can put it in an organizational DA. There is a process which you have to follow, and I think organizations are all the time following. Yes, you cannot be totally be ignorant about emerging technologies, but at the same time, can't be forced without proper skilling and all. So very, very good point. So coming to you, Mr. Veer Sagar, हम लोग जो हैं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक, IT, टेलीकॉम इसमें बड़े हुए हैं और हमें तो हमेशा बहुत अच्छा लगता है टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में बात करना, सबको पुश करना कि आप टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ करें और मेजॉरिटी of the people like who are around us, we love that technology should be used, it should become part of the DNA. Even in on my own organization, I think all the time I keep telling, why don't you adopt all the emerging technologies? So what is your view on that?
Thank you. That's very interesting. When I started IT, I was in the supplier end. I was running the IT department. So you just go to a user department and you say, look, let's have this system computerized. It's a very good idea. Computerization is a very good thing, but don't do it for me. Go and do for that other department. Leave me alone. Because people were scared at that moment of losing their control, of their authority. Because IT technology was something that they did not understand. They said, here are these bright boys coming in with their computers and they're going to take over all our this. So that was the first step. So there I learned that you have to let the user feel that he's in control. So give him soft, simple solutions. Do not let him even know that there is a huge computer at the background. All he sees are very simple things. He interacts with it and he gets what he wants. And that way we moved on. Later on, when I was manufacturing and selling computers, I had a different set of problems. The user departments, and now you are dealing with the IT department. The IT department, I shouldn't be saying it, but I should say was the biggest hindrance to computerization in India. Because the IT department was aspirational. No offense meant any. In fact, I supplied the first mainframe to NDDB in Anand, right? And I'll tell you the jokes we used to crack about the computers for NDDB. So, you see, because they were aspirational. They wanted to use technology, software, anything else which looks good on their resume. That really didn't matter whether the company needed it or not. That with the control slowly moving to the end user, that is slowly dying out. Now I come to back office, which is my last 20 odd years. I decided that in India, there is technology. Let's use technology to bring jobs to India. At that time, there was a major problem about about H1B, that getting visas to go to US. So I said to myself and to my boss at that time, and I said, instead of sending people to US, let's bring jobs to India. Don't send people to the job, bring jobs to India. Use technology to bring the jobs to India. So we brought in back office. Looked very good. We started off. But at that time, there was no internet. I'm talking about 1997, right? No internet. All we had was a VSNL, right? Which was a government company in those days, at one end, and AT&T at the other end. And a whole lot of expensive prima donna systems at the two ends. And if you wanted to talk one end to the other, you had to go through AT&T and VSNL. And very rarely they actually talked because there was some confusion or the other always in the interface. So we said, okay, so we started at that end to do medical transcription. Then things changed. The voice recognition came in. They said, oh, now who wants transcription? Quite right. Now what technology brought us in, technology was almost throwing us out. So we readapted. And we say, okay, what else can we do? Here is technology. Take the lowest end of technology. By that time, internet has started. Take the lowest end of technology. Go for it. Make technology your slave. Do not make you the slave of technology. Technology is incidental. So we designed a very, very easy to use, simple system which the doctor, the receptionist, and the guy at this end could understand. The guy at this end is not a doctor. He's not a very well qualified guy. He's basically a BSc BA who's been trained into transcription. He's not an IIT IIM guy. He's not a programmer. So he's been trained. So we had the lowest level of technology, and we said, don't fix it if it's not broke. We made it user friendly, and I must tell you, even today, those programs are running. All we have done is that because we were using in those days digital recorders, off the shelf digital recorders, now there are no digital recorders, we are using the mobile. And we had written some programs for the data to be shoved up in the internet. Now the mobile does it automatically. So those things we took, but by and large, we ensured that we use technology to the extent it is required and understood. The most important thing was it has to be understood. It had not got to be something we using this because we want it. So as a result, we were able to bring down the entire customer base. Previously, because we had all this high-flown technology, we could only go to big hospitals because they could afford the technology. Now we go to individual doctors, individual lawyers who do not understand technology, do not have an IT department, but they understand how to use a mobile. So I believe strongly that technology is required, but technology has to be adopted. It has to be relevant, it has to be required, not technology for technology's sake. I hope I answered to some extent.
You have. And I really like your remark that let's not be slave of technology. Really very, very hard-hitting point.
Arvind, can I interject a bit?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, when you say users would not accept it, I think if we manage to sell it to them in terms of what is in it for them, right? If they understand that very clearly as part of the change management process, I think user acceptance is much better. But in defense of the IT teams, right? I think I should defend the IT teams. Okay. Normally, user realizes the requirement much later. I'll give you one example. When social media was just starting off and people were starting to look at the social media feeds to be able to respond to them, the whole management ORM piece was just beginning. We tried to convince our marketing team that we should deploy an ORM tool and start monitoring responses. Our marketing team laughed at us and said, "Hamare users social pe nahi hai," right? We, however, prepared for it because we knew what was coming. The problem with the users is when they decide they want something, they want it yesterday. And that time, if you are looking around for what you can do, you are too late. And that's the reason why IT teams may look like building their resume, but effectively they are building their skill sets.
No, I think you're absolutely right, correct. And sometimes, people on the shop floor or even on the field, they really don't understand the value of technology which can bring or emerging technology can bring. But when they start seeing the benefit, I think, and at the time, it becomes part of their DNA, a part of the organizational DNA.
Yeah, I agree with her. I think many times it becomes very, very difficult for people to go into the changes. I think this is one thing which even we will avoid changes, but without a change, you probably will not find that the technology. You look at the whole thing, say 2021, COVID. How did we all change? Everybody and every day. Take a case, our own case. Initial 15 days, we found it very difficult. How do we cope up with the video conference? And till now, and everybody finds now is very useful. And there are many methods to convey this. And then the availability of the people to adapt that change was very fast. So therefore, change absolutely takes little longer but change is required and change is definitely needed.
Yeah, I think all organization, all individual, I think have inertia, and there has to be all consistent efforts to break that inertia so that benefits of emerging technologies can be brought to the organization. But we have here with us Neeraj. I think his whole business actually work on emerging technology. There's no way, fintech company can survive without using blockchains, without using cyber security and all these tools, which are available today. Rather, they are always hungry for something new happening. Neeraj, my question to you is that on one hand, you are so dependent on these technologies, but then, with these technologies, some part and parcel which comes, I think it brings lot of crime with it, right? There are people, who are using tools and things to steal the money. So what's your take on those things?
So we are tech heavy. There is no doubt about it, and we ride on tech. Okay, because we have a big ecosystem and customer base, and our fellow citizens to serve. And if we don't use technology, it will be bit hard to meet the expectations of our users. And with that, if users have an expectation, they give you the responsibility to make them secure and compliant, and to accommodate or enable those areas, we again need a technology to serve that base. So we use technology, so we need not to reinvent the wheel for the solution purpose. Okay, we use the technology responsibly, and then we build the solutioning and the platforms upon them. And whenever we build any system, whatever technology we use, okay, we have to be ahead of curve most of the time, because if we lag behind, then it's a loss for our consumers or our business partners. So they see us as a technologist, and they have an expectation from us to give them the better technology solutions to accommodate their customer needs. Whether it's a blockchain is very interesting actually. I don't see blockchain as a technology. Okay, I see blockchain is a fundamental right for any person or any family. Let me support my comment upon it. Okay, there are various use cases. Here I am just taking a use case of a distributed ledger, okay, Ethereum. As an individual, how many guys maintain a book or something at house just to keep track of their expenses? In older ages, our parents or our ancestors, I saw my grandfather actually maintaining the ledger. Okay, nowadays I don't see it. Okay, so with a very small use case, and it is very easy to use, if we maintain, if we know, okay, what we are eating, we're not gonna gain the weight. Okay, whenever we gain weight, many problems comes in, and that applies to your financial weight also. If you spend more, okay, you might get into the trouble, and you don't want to do that for your loved ones and your families, right? For that we work for. So that's the use case, a very simple use case which anybody can relate to themselves. Another is cyber security. Okay, earlier it was very easy to identify the bad elements. Not so easy, but yeah, comparatively easy. Now everything is virtual. It's very hard to find the anti-elements, and it's not very easy by a human or anyone to keep track of it, what is going around. It's all about the information system you want to build it. Strong information system can't win the countries. Israel is one of the example, right? So to make that information system for our customers, for our partners, banks and institutions, we need to rely on technology. Okay, we need to be ahead of curve. the next example I am going to quote is availability. Okay, in backstage, me and he was discussing about how dependent we are in internet, okay, or payment mode. Can you imagine if you need a money like at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., you want to buy something, let's say medicine, okay, for your family or for your loved one, and you are not able to pay. Now go back in an era when bad corona phase was happening. Okay, with the help of technology, we were able to contribute for the wellness of our citizens or our fellow family members and all. So, during that time, making the system available, okay, there was so many unsung hero who was keeping the systems available. Okay, those were in background, so we don't realize it. Okay, I have seen it by my eyes how data center guys were doing it, and it was very next to impossible if we don't support those workforce with the latest technology to make them work with the efficiency they should be. So these are the use cases I just wanted to put across with
Good.
the audience. Yeah.
So Neeraj, I think आपका तो मतलब केस ही अलग है. आप emerging technology के addict हैं, right? You use emerging technology, problem आती है, फिर आपको और emerging technology चाहिए, और उससे बाहर निकलते हैं तो और technology चाहिए. I think you're always you fall in that category. You're I think addict
Yes.
to emerging technology. So now I move to Gurtej. Gurtej is from Micron, as you heard. ये ना होते तो शायद आदि emerging technologies ही ना होती. So I'd like to ask him, Gurtej, with 5G, AI and all these emerging technologies, how it is going to impact semiconductor manufacturing in India? You know, we are talking a lot about that. At Telecom Sector Skill Council, we are working on a lot of skilling courses around that. So we'd like to hear from you, what are the changes which is going to bring?
Sure. So in general, any new technology, innovation, or emerging technology, as far as the adoption goes, we talked about a lot of examples in IT, but in general, the barriers to adoption are fear of the unknown, or we have innate instinct built in us. We don't really like to change. It's the inertia. So we always want to question anything new. What's in it for me? Can it provide any benefit? Is it easy to use? There was a comment made about IT. My main complaint to my IT sometimes is, well, I understand that, and there is an advantage in the back end of new systems, but the user has to find these easier to use. It has to make their life easier as they see it. It shouldn't make them add 20 new things into the chart so you can collect more information. So the user experience has always have to be better. As I mentioned, why do we use, so before 5G there was a 4G, there was a 3G, and there's 2G. So ask yourselves, why are we using smartphones? Because it makes our life easier. We can do things much easier than we could do before. What's 5G going to do it? It's going to do the same things much faster. It's going to make more information available to us. It's going to make more AI type applications enabled so that we are able to do more functions on our box. So at the end of the day, there's a benefit, but there's also huge infrastructure cost to enable it. It's not easy to do, but as I said before, it is going to happen. It is inevitable. That's the track record of technology in the past. So the question for the big organization is, okay, or even the consumers is, how do we make use of this opportunity to create applications and survive in this business? Any organization which does not adopt new technology trends is obsolete within 5 years, if not sooner. There have been a lot of computer companies in the world. Only 1% of them survive today. Their big names have gone obsolete in the past. And the only companies who survive, it's only 2% of them survive, which actually are able to move fast with new technology. And 5G is one of them. Imagine a phone company or a country which ignores 5G. you'll be finished in 4 or 5 years. There'll be no future for you. And I think the other comment was Chat GP, right? So Chat GP is a very interesting thing. So let me give you a story. Many, many years ago, I was going to university here in Hoskas, IIT Delhi. My uncle lived in the US and he gave me a present, which was the calculator made by Texas Instruments. It was one of the old ones with the red digits on it. As far as I know, I may have been the first person in India to have a calculator. I took it to my university, showed it to my classmates, and tried to use it in the class. There's a huge scandal. They thought I was cheating. I'm using technology to do algebra, and other people are using slide rules and using log tables. And my teachers were really concerned. How will you ever learn how to use slide rules or log tables if you use calculator? So I understood their concern, but the point was that calculator is just a device to make things faster for you. You still have to solve the problem yourself. You're just using calculator to do algebra. So let's go to Chat GP now. 15, 20 years ago, Google came. We were so happy. We have information at our fingertips when internet came, which is very great. Today you can search my name, you can search your name. You'll find lots of information. You need to make some sense of that information. ChatGPT is a tool which will actually take all the information and really ask the question you want to ask. Right now in Google, you cannot really ask the question you want to ask. You have to do so much work in Google to really get the answer you want. ChatGPT is the next level tool which will give you the information the way you want it. Now there are people in the universities have the same concern, which was related to the calculator I had. Well, how will students know how to write essays? Because ChatGPT can write the essay, right? So now writing an essay, composing an essay, you can think of it as same way as it's the manual part, it's not the intellectual part. You have to understand what's in the essay, what the content is. You have to be creative actually about what you ask ChatGPT to do. It's still under your control. So to me, ChatGPT is just like a calculator in that sense. It's just writing essays for you. So when you grade the students, if they all use the same ChatGPT, they have the same essay, they will not get ahead. Students who are creative enough, who look at the problem differently and use the ChatGPT to have a different output are the ones who are going to succeed. Same exact story goes into every sales and marketing organization in the world. All the sales, you need to know your consumer. How do you get to know your consumer? You'll have to use this technology to excel. You have to use AI to know what your customer wants. So ChatGPT within the organization as well as outside the organization, you have to use it. And the last point I want to make is we have a very complex manufacturing facilities in the world, and each facility costs $10 billion. All the techniques of AI, all the techniques of modeling, we have to use those in our factory to run them efficiently. And we're actually going a step further. We're actually trying to use artificial intelligence to help us create the technology which helped enable artificial intelligence. That's the full circle now. So use these techniques to actually create the technology itself to further the acceleration of technology curve.
Thank you. You heard Gurtej is literally singing for emerging technology. So have you changed your view now, or you are still staying with your view?
I'm not against technology, please believe me. I've survived because of technology, I've grown because of technology. I'm only saying that technology is good for 20% of India's companies. The big companies who create the technology, who use the technology to create the systems. 80% of Indian companies do not need that kind of technology. They can neither use nor they can afford. Now, for example, somebody talked about COVID. Now, if we were using the kind of technology which a normal American firm would have used for doing what we are doing, we would have had to close down during COVID, because there was no way we could have moved this technology to those villages or small towns from where our employees come. We had to work from home, and in most of the places there were no internet. But overnight, we were able to manage, because of the kind of technology we used, using the Indian word jugaad, We're able to move everything there, and I can tell you we're one of the very, very few companies who did not lose a single day's output because of COVID. We worked right through without compromising on the security. See, we do a lot of work because of medical and legal. So there's a lot of requirement for security. So we were able to have VPNs and all kinds of strange things down to the elementary requirement. So I'm not against technology. I'm only against technology for technology's sake. Right? And that's all. Otherwise, I'm all for technology. I'm making money on technology. I'm living because of technology. My company exists because of technology. If technology was not there, there was no way I could do work for American customers sitting in India.
So
Thank you.
quick comment to that. So I totally agree, everything. My thesis is that the marketplace is a great selector of that technology. If technology is over-engineered, it will not be successful in the marketplace, and that company will go out of business. So if you over-engineer or under-engineer, you're bound to fail.
Very good point. I think very, very good point for both of you. And now I come to you, Mr. Dua. You have got such a vast experience in telecom. I think in all areas, all field, and you specialize on infrastructure side. Can you just guide us these emerging technologies, how it will be used in future on telecom and maybe specifically on infrastructure side, and what are your advice to most of them?
Thank you very much. I would like to first agree with Gurtej saying that the organization which do not change, he used a very simple word, they will perish. That is what it is, they will perish. I think change is very important, and change is always becomes a resilience to that. So therefore it is important. Now coming back to the question that you have, in case of the infrastructure, we have seen from, if you look at a human angle, we were earlier using the guy is being used to put the installation, commissioning, etc., which is quite a safety hazard for this. With the present technology which we are using as a drones, which is there, now I'm talking from let me talk from the infrastructure point of view, which Arvind said from this. There are many other emerging technologies. Now for carrying out the inspection, we earlier used to do in a manual inspection of this. With the help of the drones, we are now able to conduct health of the infrastructure, inspection of the infrastructure. Beside that, even the audit also. When I say audit, means again there are many other paraphernalia which are involved into this paraphernalia. Audit means the health of the company, whether the battery is okay or not, DG set is okay, the air conditioning is all right, and the riggers are working also or not. All that is required is now you sitting in the on knock center itself, you are able to manage. Beside that, the installation of the infrastructure now is being mostly, as I earlier in my earlier discussion, we have been using these pilots to install this. Now pilots in the sense, how do we work around their earlier method? It used to be the installation of this by doing the physical survey of the site to find out the signal strength, whether here do you need a tower or not, here do you need an infrastructure or not. In the case of this, the new technology that the drones are being used to inspection and installation of then the RF mapping itself is there. Now again, let's take some of the, we have faced at least during the COVID, number of cyclones that came. In case of disaster situation, what you need is the cell on wheel is to be put. Now cell on wheel is to be put, you need to check whether to install this so that the people get the coverage. That is another inspection. The biggest thing which is happening is on the installation of the fiber, aerial fiber, number one. Number two, beside that, in many of the states you find the fiber is being cut. The battery, because the costly battery, which are the lithium battery, very expensive, battery thefts are being done. Now it's very easy to monitor, you get the signal on this. In case of the fiber cut, the whole network comes to a standstill. In case of the battery theft, it doesn't, because again you have the standby to standby to standby to go, because the grid supply, you have the EP supply, you have the RET supply. But in case of the fiber cut, if you look at in case of this is a very important case of the 5G, you have the spectrum that you have, you need a very dense network. So because of the dense network, you need the fiber availability. That's another one. Lastly, I would say the new thing is the identification of the street furniture which is required in case of the 5G densification of the network. What we have been now started doing is we are making use of the discom poles for making use of them. Now it's a huge task if I had to survey all along the country to find out each Kerala State Electricity Board how many discoms they had. This task is undertaken and which is helping us a lot to create a 5G infrastructure in a very equipped manner. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. So what I'll do, I'll now request from my left to right, just 1 minute quick comments on around this topic. Any last point which you like to say? So we can start with you from Neeraj. 1 minute. In 1 minute, just say something which remaining point you have or anything you want to talk about the topic.
Yeah, I would request everyone, okay, use technology as much as you can. Never shy away with the technology, okay. But don't be mad about technology, okay. As we said, we should use the technology responsibly, and apart from that, we should be responsible while using the technology. That's very, very important. It's good for individual, it's good for your family, it's good for your ecosystem or the community you belongs to, okay, because you need to be aware about what all bad factors or anti-elements exist in the system, right? You can't simply close your eye and think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So any 1 minute by watch.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest challenges or the specific challenges when it comes to companies like Mother Dairy is the cold chain, right? Managing the cold chain and managing the perishability factor. Hence, a lot of technology deployment focuses on the supply chain elements also, right? And that's where we are focused on ensuring that we are removing the call centers, moving the source of data right to the either the distributors or the actual retailers. So, a lot of technology is deployed across the inbound and outbound supply chain to make sure that the production and the distribution is just in time, right? So with that context, to me, if we don't keep experimenting with emerging technologies, if we are not keeping on doing small projects all the time, if you are not hungry to adopt new technologies, organizations will get left behind. So while technology for technology's sake does not make sense, we need to be prepared to adopt technology, and for that we need to keep ourselves geared up.
Thank you. Stua.
Thank you very much. I think you can go on and talking. I think the technology is changing faster than what we can do. It reminds me of 3 R's, when in the technology it should be resilient. For that we need to restructure ourselves, and also we need to revive ourselves. So therefore, to make sure that the technology is adapted adequately, and without that, there is no way that any organization, any human being can survive with this. The technological changes will have to be adapted. It has to be adopted faster than this. If you're talking about the drones, I think drones can be used very, very effectively, but there are certain local restrictions and the regulatory constraint on that for uses of this because of the height at which it can fly, the weight of it is fly, and the distance to which it flies. I think these are some of the changes that we feel, but they are very, very important changes that we want to enforce in our infrastructure layout of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Veer.
Again, I am speaking from an MSME small company point of view, right? While what Annie says is absolutely right, you need to have that for that size of organization. For smaller organizations, I think technology is required if it increases your happiness quotient. Does it make you more happy at your work? Does it make your life easier? Does it give you a better life-work balance? If it does, go for it. Simplify, use it. If it does not, then it's a necessary evil. Thank you.
Yeah, Gurtej.
Yes. So quickly, so technology and the change has been happening for 10,000 years. Imagine your life without the wheel. The only problem we have to deal with right now is the change of pace of technology is on an exponential scale. So within our lifetimes, we have seen more technology change than 50 years ago our parents may have seen. And that trend is continuing. So the challenge for all of us, including our organizations, is how do we pick and choose the right technology, implement the right solutions in a time frame where they can be of benefit to us, and don't waste time on things which don't work. So we have to find a way to embrace this change and use it in the right way for the benefit of our companies as well as for the benefit of the company, benefit of the society. And all changes are not good. The changes which are not good, marketplace is a great equalizer. They'll fall by the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my co-panelists. I think it was a very, very good session. We started from almost not be slave to the technology to the point where we all now agree that I think we should all be adopting technology, because without adoption, we'll not be growing. So with these words, I thank you all and all the audience. You have been a great audience. Thank you very much for this great session.
Thank you. I must thank the speakers for their lovely presentation and the panel discussion. But before we close, I would like to request our moderator, Mr. Arvind Bali, CEO, Telecom Sector Skills Council, to give out mementos to our esteemed speakers. Can we start with Annie Mathew, CIO, Mother Dairy? Thank you, ma'am, for your contribution. Mr. Neeraj Chauhan, CIO, PayU. Mr. T.R. Dua, DG, Digital Infrastructure Providers Association. Mr. Veer Sagar, Vice Chairman, ESC India, Chairman and CEO, Selectronic Equipment and Services Private Limited. Thank you, sir. And last but not the least, Gurtej Sandhu, Senior Fellow and Vice President, Micron Technology. And for our moderator, can I request Payal to come and give a memento to a fantastic moderator for conducting it so well, sir. This is on behalf of Exhibitions India. Please accept this small token.